Hi there, just read this disclaimer please. Alright guys, I thought I'd just do a quick little video to show you what's happening with one of my investments, Aberdeen Asia Focus. Although the name doesn't say it, it's actually smaller companies in Asia that this focuses on. This one normally has the annual report released in like late October, early November. But I've been waiting for it, and it's the 30th of November today, and it's finally been released. And it seems like there was a reason for the delay, because there's been lots of changes being made. So I thought I'd just talk you through those changes. So as usual, I just go to investigate, and today these two were released this morning. Right, the first one is about the manager, and they're becoming a co-manager. Flavia Chong, I presume you pronounce that, I don't know. And I think that is to do with having more of a focus on China and Neil Sun. Anyway, I don't care so much about that. All that sort of stuff can happen in the background without me paying too much attention. And then this is more pertinent to me, future dividend policy. It seems like they're going to start just distributing more of the asset value in the dividend, and not even caring so much about the dividend being covered by the dividends they receive from their investments. It seems like they're just going to be happy to distribute capital, because they're planning to double it from this year's that they've just announced today. So this year they've announced a 15p dividend, which is a reduction from last year. So let's type that into my spreadsheet. I guess the effects of COVID have taken a very long time to get through to the dividends that they pay, because last year they didn't decrease it, they kept it at 19. So the total dividend, including the special, is now 16p. So what have I lost? 8, add 6, 14 quid. But then they're going to increase it to 32 pence the year after. Well, that's the plan, at least, if they get it approved. It's a bit annoying, really. I'd rather them just smooth it out. I'd rather them keep this year's at 19p and then increase next year's to, what, 28p something? Why have that reduction and then the massive increase the year after? I'd rather them just smooth it out. Why? I don't know why they have to go from one extreme to the other. It's a bit annoying, really. I mean, it's not a massive deal, because, you know, I don't exactly own this for the dividend. It's only 1.1% according to this year's dividend, which should increase to like what, 2.2% on today's price or last night's price. So it's still not a massive dividend. Anyway, I mean, it hasn't been approved. Maybe other people who have some influence will say the same thing and they'll change their minds. Who knows? This kind of mirrors what's happened with Henderson International Income. They've increased the dividend to 1.8p on a quarterly basis. If you continue the next year at 1.8p, it gives you an increase of 14% straight after a pandemic where all the dividends were cut. And it's actually a change in the policy. They actually mentioned it in their report. So basically what they're doing is, you'll notice here that in the good times, before the pandemic hit, they always had this buffer of like 18%, 9%, 10% in the dividend cover. So obviously it seemed like their target was to always have some left over to reinvest in the company. So I think what the new policy for Henderson International is, instead of targeting their dividend cover to be regularly, in normal times, to be like 10-20% above 1, they're targeting it now to be 1. So had this new dividend policy been in place in these 3 years, the payout would have been higher and the dividend cover would have probably hovered around 1. So there'll be more years where it's like 0.98, 1.02 instead of regularly being higher. So I mean, what that should do is it should reduce the potential for increases the following years, but the current dividend is, like I say, 14% higher. Instead of a usual increase of like 5%, they've gone for a 14% increase. But every year after that, I would imagine, would be slightly lower increases in the dividend. So I don't know, I'm kind of torn on that. I kind of liked the fact that it always had good dividend cover. But on the other hand, it's nice to have a higher dividend sooner, isn't it? Next year instead of 3 years down the line when it's had regular increases. So it's kind of a similar thing to that, and I think part of it is the premium and the discount. I think that's a lot of what Asia Focus is focusing on here. It's about making the investment trust more attractive to investors. And as we'll see, there's other things that they're doing to try and make it more attractive. It tends to be about the premium and the discount. Because if you see here, over the 10-year period, the discount was 0 here, and then since about 2014-15, it's been a pretty regular discount to net asset value. So let's have a look at some of the other things they're trying to do. So the dividend policy changes, also the management fee is reducing. They're reducing it to this tiered level of 0.85 is the highest for the first 250 million, and as you can see, it tiers down the bigger the company gets, so the net asset values get. And as you can see, based on the share price recently, that's a blended percentage of 0.74. It was previously set at 0.96%. So even at the highest level, the first 250 million, it's lower. I mean, that's the trend with all investment trusts, really. The charges are all getting pummeled lower. There's a share split. As usual, this doesn't really affect anything, apart from if someone wants to buy one share, they don't need as much money now. But I mean, it doesn't really affect anything. So they're proposing, is it a 5-to-1 split? Yeah, 5-to-1 share split. So it doesn't really affect anything, but basically I'll end up with five times the number of shares, but the share price should be slashed in fifths. All other things being equal, you know, unless it does have the desired effect and it makes it more attractive to people who don't have enough money to buy one share, and they don't use an app which allows them to buy fractional shares, which most, you know, I guess the young ones use those apps, but I don't. Oh yeah, tender offer. So if they don't perform well over a 5-year period, they will then allow people to get back 25% of the company's net asset value at net asset value without having to, because what they'd normally have to do, if they wanted to sell 25% of their shares, they'd have to sell it on the open market, and at the moment there's a 12% discount. So this allows people to get out without taking the hit on the discount that we currently have. And so the other thing is, this might be related to the name change we had a few years ago. It doesn't use the word small anymore, but basically if you read these paragraphs, you can pause it maybe and read the paragraphs if you want. But basically they're saying they want more flexibility in buying bigger companies. And I think that's because, well, as they say in those paragraphs, a smaller company in China or India would be a lot bigger than a smaller company in Sri Lanka. So they want the investment policy to be more flexible in that regard. So I mean, this could be why they seem to be edging themselves away from having like a commitment to smaller companies by some technical definition, at least. Yeah, 1.5 billion was the technical definition they had before, and they want to scrap that. It's like in America, you can buy what they say as a smaller company would be like at the bottom of the FTSE 100 in the UK. So it's all relative, isn't it, I suppose? Anyway, there we go. There's the update. Right, okay guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.